Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Curly, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Before I go any further, I need to thank the producers and administrators of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. First, I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work from the podcast. Also, I need to thank Ashley Summers, Mark Vieira, Sarah Campbell, and Sam Levy for helping me keep the podcast and Patreon community afloat. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody. We're coming to you with breaking news. So Ashley and I are sitting down to record the Taylor Swift segments for the next couple of episodes. And while we sat down, I got a notification from Instagram saying that Taylor Swift has posted on her story. So I went to I went to check. I specifically did not tell Ashley this. So, okay, it was announced that Taylor Swift
On her story?
will be from her official account, that there will be a theatrical release in movie theaters on October 3rd, which is the day of the release of The Life of a Showgirl. And Taylor Swift has posted the movie poster on Instagram, and she says, "I hereby invite you to a dazzling soiree, the official release party of A Showgirl, October 3rd through October 5th, only in cinemas. You'll get to see the exclusive world premiere of the music video for my new single, The Fate of Ophelia, along with never-before-seen behind-the-scenes footage of how we made it." Ashley's hands are on her face. Oh my gosh. How we made it, cut by explanations of what inspired the music, and the brand new lyric videos from my new album, The Life of a Showgirl. Looks like it's time to brush off that Eras Tour outfit or orange cardigan. Tickets are on sale now. Dancing is optional, but very encouraged. Oh my God. Oh my God. And so it's a brand new photo of her too that we haven't seen in the promotion for The Life of the Showgirl. Ashley, this is happening in real time. What are your thoughts? Are you buffering right now?
I feel like I might puke.
Well,
I'm just so excited. Like the Fate of Ophelia music video. Never before behind the scene footage of how we made it. Sorry, I'm literally just rereading what you told me, but she looks so pretty.
She does, and it's just so
Ryan Ryan is literally watching me, like, have, like, a complete, like, moment of just, like, trying to understand what's happening. I'm literally wearing a Buffy shirt. Well, like, literally, I told Ryan that I was buffering when he was explaining what was happening to me, but, yeah, I have no words. I am just so excited. Get your popcorn, get your sparkly outfits. Oh my gosh.
This is overwhelming in news. So yeah. So this week's episode, it's just also funny because this week's episode is literally about mental health in Scream and how it's depicted with Sidney and Sam and Tara. We're gonna do Gale after Scream 7 just because I feel like it's incomplete based off of Scream 6. So here we are as we are both exploding, in our heads. So
Yeah. It's a good version. Like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up in a good way.
oh my gosh.
Because yeah, I've been trying to figure out what I wanna do for the release party, so now I'm like, "Okay, this is my event, this is all I need to do," and oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Me too. I want to give a shout out to Jess Melendez, of course, is on this episode. She's brilliant. Phil is on this episode. They're both professionals and are really, really smart about the discussion here. I want to give a shout out to Phil and Nuala. They both get to go through the speedrun questions here, and they are both kind of OG patrons. They've been with me from the beginning. So a part of my effort with this episode is like to celebrate people who have supported me from the beginning and supported me always, but like people, I want to make sure that everybody who's been a part of the community feels seen and repped. So and Nuala and I do the Taylor Swift song of the week. She wanted to do the last time. We actually did this while you were away back in, like, we recorded it months ago.
I do love The Last Time, that's one of my faves, so I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. Okay, well, I'm just gonna continue spiraling into my orange and green abyss. Oh my
So,
god.
well, enjoy the rest of the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I'm sitting here with a stab investor. I'm thrown off because he's the one person who I do a weird voice whenever I say his name. So, please, everybody, please welcome. Okay, I'm going to say it like RuPaul would, okay? P. Dougie05. Hey, Phil.
How's it going? How's it going, everybody?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Well, so Phil, it's been a while since you've been on, so please tell me any updated like vibes you have about Scream.
I mean, I'm excited. I've been listening and I follow a couple of different people on YouTube. I watch their videos and I'm excited about Scream 7. I know it seems like some of the people I listen to on YouTube have kind of some mixed reactions, and are not excited about us going back to Sid's story. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see another movie.
Listener, I just made the loser face on my forehead with my fingers. So
Different perspectives are good, even if we don't agree with them, it's hard sometimes. But no, I mean, I'm excited. I think we've talked about this before in the podcast. Has talked about this before. This is the exciting time to be a fan. Is, well, what do we think is going to happen, and what do we think the story is going to be, and what's going to be the motive? And so I like this time and kind of the lead up, and then obviously the movie itself will be fun, hopefully, and be a good story. And then the after of kind of theorizing and guessing and trying to put the pieces together. So I think it's exciting.
So, would you like to see Scream 7 be like a standalone movie, or do you want to see like a two-parter, or do you want to see a whole new Sidney trilogy?
I like to see a trilogy. Like
I knew you would.
a well-rounded trilogy of, we're going to pick up where she is now and like, let's see that through, whatever that needs to look like. I've thought several times of what does the end arc look like? And I mean, I'm not a writer, so thankfully that's not my job. But, where does that end with it not being the death of Sidney? I think true fans don't want that. That kind of taints what Wes would want and his idea of a final girl. And so that's where I struggle. Like, okay, so where does the happy ending arc, kind of what we got with Scream 3, where does that kind of end for this trilogy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like trying to guess what the trilogy arc of Scream, the original trilogy, would have been like 2 and 3 before we saw Scream 1, right? Because we're entering chapter 1 of this new storyline. So it's impossible. We'll probably have a better idea after we see Scream 7, but it's an exciting time. So we are going to be joined by one of our favorite collaborators here on Scream with Ryan C. Showers, Jess Melendez, to talk about a topic that I am not well suited to. So I invited both of you because since I started the Patreon, this topic has been suggested over and over and over. And I never did it because I didn't want it to be basic. And I feel like this topic could really be basic. You and Jess are very qualified to talk about mental health based off of your studies and your professions. So I'm excited to dive into the way that mental health is depicted in Scream. But before that, do you want to go through some speedrun questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Sydney, Gail, or Ty?
I'm gonna go with Sidney.
Nice. Okay. Sam or Tara?
I'm gonna go with Tara. Yeah,
Dewey or Chad?
Dewey, but I mean, character-wise, Dewey.
All right. Who is your favorite killer? I actually don't know this. This is interesting.
No, it's kind of
Jill.
high.
Okay. Mrs. Loomis. Jill and Mrs. Loomis.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I was like, well, Phil likes Scream 4 and he's gay. So, I mean, you have Mrs. Loomis and you have Scream 4. And he says it's a tie. There you go. I'm a magician. Okay. Favorite opening, favorite finale?
Both Scream 2. I mean, Scream 2 is definitely at my top. And so, I mean, I'm also a theater person. And so I think there's something scary about being in a theater in a public place. So that's definitely frightening. And then, yeah, just the ending of that.
All right. What is your favorite scene in the franchise?
I mean, really, the ending of Scream 2 is probably one of my
Scream 2. Favorite
Scream
scene.
2. Yeah, just the whole thing. I mean, I think from when Gale is getting chased in the sound studio onward, I mean, that's just the epitome of suspense because you don't know what's going to happen. You aren't sure what to expect. You've got Sid in the car in the whole Hallie scene, and you just still, the hundreds of times I've probably watched that movie, I hold my breath thinking, all right, he's going to stab her this time, right? Even though that's not what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sid has this spunk at the end of 2 where she's just like, I am over these people and I am going to fight. And she just has this attitude about her that I really love and I think is empowering and super feminist.
What is your favorite supporting role across the franchise?
I don't know if anybody's ever said this, but actually Sid's dad. I don't know that he.
Wow.
I know, right? I don't know that he gets enough credit. We see him in the first one, right? Like, and he's really made to be the suspect. And then he's really in person. He's one of the few people. He's the only person there, really, in the beginning for Sid, who's really trying to encourage her. And he's there. He's supporting her.
Okay, love it. All right, so last 2 questions. 1, what is your favorite thing about Scream? And 2, you've been a Patreon basically since the beginning. What is your favorite thing or memory about the podcast?
Okay, so favorite memory of the podcast. I mean, just being in a group chat with everybody in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that was when Scream 5 was coming out. All that excitement around it was a lot of fun, and people were just kind of talking, and the support of finding this niche of people. This is something that I've always loved, and I've had people around me who have loved it too, but many times in life felt like, oh, like that's a weird thing that you like scary movies. Weird. But to find other people who had that same passion was really cool. And then what was your other question?
Favorite thing about Scream?
You know, that it plays on the tropes of what we all know and love, but the characters. We've been with these characters for almost 30 years, some of them. And so seeing their growth over time is really cool. And to go back to the beginning and see where they were and their arcs throughout is really awesome.
Love that. I love that. Well, Phil, thank you so much for the speed round. We are going to now transition to, that moment in Scream 2 whenever Hallie is getting in the police car and she says, I'm her therapist. Well, I think that's what the title of this should be. It should be, I'm her therapist, because you two are my therapists today. So everybody, please welcome my dear, dear friend and contributor, Jess Melendez. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
Okay.
Good. Well, you two are my resident, mental health experts. Let's do it, okay? So I think that, for me, something that is so great about Scream is the way it depicted mental health of Sidney in the original trilogy. And it's just, there's something very subtle and grown up and nuanced and soft about it while still being emotional and powerful. And I think that, that served the longevity of Sidney as a character. But let's just start out with the question. Do we think Scream had good representation of mental health as it pertained to Sidney? Jess, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I certainly do. And I think that you kind of kicked in on where difference lies between Sidney's arc and Sam's arc, and it's that subtlety. Because if you notice in Scream 2 and 3, the way they present her flashbacks or PTSD tendencies are engrossed in the reality of the film. So it's wonderful because it kind of makes you question, is there a second Ghostface? Was he ever there? So I'm thinking specifically in 2 during the play, and also in 3 when she goes to the stab set, because I always think to that first moment where the door is jittering, kind of like in Scream 1. And it makes you think well, we know that, yeah, it might have been intended for 2 killers, but in the, the final product, 1 killer. So for me, that kind of works because it's well, Sidney's just seeing that. That's just her having a flashback, and then actually Ghostface is behind her. So I think it's just the subtle ways that they let Nev just act. They don't have to say it out loud. when Derek gets hurt and you can see that on her face, like, this is my fault again. It's happening again.
Yeah.
I think between Nev's wonderful acting and Jen, like, maybe it's because we didn't really have the language back then, and so it wasn't like really well pointed out. Because I think if the Kincaid and Sydney conversation had happened today, it would have been like, well, you have PTSD, and I know what it's like to have flashbacks, whatever. But instead, they kind of talk about it in this poetic fashion that kind of leaves that subtlety and kind of makes it more universal.
And I feel like, with Sydney, she has such amazing growth in the original trilogy. Like, the more the story goes on, like, especially 2 to 3, I think that her mental health is at the most delicate. And then it's fun when we see her in Scream 4, you can tell that she's done the work on herself to be in a better place and have a better sense of herself. But she's very calm in Scream 4. And I think that's actually a really good, subtle way of expressing mental health and the work that Sydney would have done over that 10-year gap. Phil, what are your thoughts on Sydney here?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's very subtle because I was thinking about this today, knowing that this was going to be a question. And I'm like, well, what do I think? And I think it is subtle. It's not in your face in terms of being spelled out, which I think is just what audiences or writers think audiences need nowadays. Is it for just to be on this bright blinking sign of what the thing is and not allow your audience to think and sit with it and kind of process it and have those conversations with people and thinking about the time, right? Like it was the 90s and the early 2000s. We didn't really talk about mental health a whole lot and it was really stigmatized. It really wasn't until after Columbine that we started talking about, like, well, what's going on with people and in their minds and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely Nev's acting. I mean, this is what makes her amazing. And why she is amazing is you can feel it. You can feel what she's experiencing, even if the words aren't being said, what she is doing with her face. Going back to what Jess was saying, like, once Derek gets shot, like, she just feels that guilt. And really, of Scream 2, when the murders are happening and when it starts to get closer to her, she's starting to feel that guilt and that shame of, like, this is my fault. I've brought this on and I don't know what to do about this, right? Like in that final one, when he's like, I would have never hurt you. I would never hurt you. Like
Yeah.
completely cracks her, which kind of leads us into Scream 3. So yeah, I think great depictions. And so I'm curious to see how they'll do that moving forward with her specifically and whatever she has to endure in these next movies. We'll just put that out there that there will be multiple.
How do we think Sydney's mental health is depicted, specifically as it pertains to the audible stuff that she hears in the Stab 3 set and, like, with, whatever else? The visions and the nightmares. Like, and the thing that I like about Scream 3 is that it doesn't go too hard. And I think this is something that, like, if you look at like Halloween H2O versus Halloween 2018, Scream 3 is even better than H2O because H2O sometimes goes a little over the top, but it's still very reserved compared to Halloween 2018 Laurie. And, I think almost like you can have a spectrum between Sydney and Scream 3 and Laurie and Halloween 2018 in terms of like how over the top mental health is depicted. So I'm just curious, is in terms of, the nightmare, the visions that she sees in the Stab 3 set, the audio and she hears in her head. I actually think it's a very classy depiction of mental health and probably more realistic than other things. I don't know. Phil, why don't you kick us off there?
Yeah, because I mean, I think you're just seeing it externalized in that movie, right? Like they're allowing us to kind of see into her world and what she's thinking, not just on her face, right? And so, like, I sit there and I think, well, how couldn't you? How couldn't you be sitting here and like, is this happening again? Am I seeing this? I'm thinking about my mom. I'm all alone. Like, that does stuff to you when you're secluded by yourself. I can't imagine the feelings of paranoia that she'd be experiencing. You're now going to the set, like, talk about a trigger. You've experienced this trauma. We're gonna assume she hasn't gone back home, like, right? Like in between those times, she left college and hit seclusion, right? She's seeing this for the first time, and it's like all the stuff she experienced all of a sudden. Like, I think they did very well in what she's experiencing, and she's kind of thinking as most of us would. Like, we'd be thinking back on a memory of like, oh, yeah, Billy climbed in that window, right? Like, and said this thing to me, and she's kind of, she says, forget, would you settle for PG-13? I think is what she says kind of out under her breath. And so we're kind of getting this reminiscent flashback of what happened in that moment. Is she actually seeing her mom? Which I think even to this day, you're kind of like,
It's debated.
Was Roman just really fucking with her in
Yeah.
the worst way, which is one of the things that makes him like a really good killer, is he just really psychologically got in there with
Well,
her.
to me, it makes sense after Sydney's been alone for so long. We don't know how long she was alone in that house up in the woods. Combining that with like these pictures of her mother showing up and then having to confront like the murder scene without knowing that there's a murder scene depicted in that house. No wonder all those things would flash into her head and she would be emotionally overwhelmed in the climax of that Stab 3 set. So I think actually it's very earned and very realistic and very lived in. So Jess, what are your thoughts?
I would say that this is something that's really like built up over time, specifically to your questions about whether or not the visions, the auditory stuff, that's all PTSD has psychotic features. A lot of disorders do. So these visual and auditory hallucinations, they track. And I do like the way that Scream does them because, like I said, it helps you be in her mindset. Like he said, you're there with her as opposed to it being ultra stylized and maybe it getting confused and, sinking into melodrama in a bad way where you feel just as scared as her because when you look back on that scene, you're like, wow, I don't know what's real either because she doesn't. And it does it in a way that's not exploitative. It's just presented as this is her experience. I like one thing about Scream, specifically in the Sidney trilogy, is that all of the killers try to exploit something within her trauma that she's feeling very, very vulnerable about and insecure about. And one is she identified wrong person, right? And two, it's, well, I trusted my boyfriend and I shouldn't have. And they exploit that with Derek. And in three is, well, I got all my friends killed again and I shouldn't be around people, and maybe this is all my fault. And maybe if it's not my fault, then maybe it's my mother's fault. And where does that leave me? There's all these things that I think Roman, he's one of the better, I know everyone has their favorite Ghostface, but for me, when I watch 3 again, I'm like, Roman is so effective. He is just tearing her apart in every way that matters. He knows every little wound to pick at with her. And that's why I think that, like he said, it's earned by the time we do get to the stab set because he has picked her apart. And the thing is, your trauma symptoms are going to get worse the more trauma you experience. So even though Sidney, she wasn't experiencing a lot of these things in 1, and then by the mid 2, specifically after her attack is when she starts seeing things. She starts having her flashbacks during her performance. And then by 3, re-entering that set, it's like it's almost like she's sucked into it. Right? She's just walking through. It's almost like she doesn't even have a choice anymore. She's walking through her own life, her own horrors, and she's just experiencing it. And I don't believe it's Roman there anymore. I've said this before. I think that in that moment, she's overwhelmed by her own trauma. And she's just, she's a crying mess after,
Yeah.
she's not okay.
I agree with you 100%, Jess, on the fact of Roman and the way that you describe Roman picking apart every little part of her. I mean, that's part of why he is the best Ghostface, in my opinion. So, okay, so we've established, I think Scream overall did really well at depicting Sidney Prescott and her mental health, especially in the first 4 movies. Okay, let's move on to Scream 5. So the elephant in the room here is Sam Carpenter, because, where to even start? Because there's so much here in terms of Sam, because she and her mental health. And for the record, I just want to point out, there are a lot of like Gen Z, like people online out there who think that Sam is like this great representation of mental health, and which I can't, but basically the way that Scream 5 depicts Sam, and I guess Scream 6, is that the way that I interpret this as a non-mental health expert, I see it as Scream 5 is saying Sam inherited mental illness through Billy Loomis, and she inherited a desire to kill and this lust for killing. And she's on these pills to suppress that or to keep her in check. And this is after drug use and whatever else that Sam went through, that the writers kind of overloaded us with stuff about Sam's personalities. There's a lot here. So I want to start with Jess. Jess, kick us off.
Yeah, there's so much wrong with that. That is like old understanding, or even not even understanding, but like assumptions about how mental health works. I mean, we know from twin studies that even if someone has the same DNA, if they're grown in different environments, they may just turn out radically different, right? So this concept of like, just because you have this, it would be called like you have this in your DNA, right? You're predisposed to this, right? It doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. You just have a tendency, So I hate that because that's so reductive and is actually harmful for people, because you have so many people that believe just, for whatever reason, that because my parent was like this, I'm going to turn out like this. And so they might even do self-fulfilling prophecy or even harm themselves or sink into depression and all these things just because they believe that, which I don't, that's why I'm so against like the way they framed this for Sam. It's just reductive and stupid. As far as like her pills, she would have had to been diagnosed to get antipsychotics. So at best, we can assume that she has had at least one brief psychotic episode or she is schizophrenic of some
Oh, wow.
flavor, right? And it's really confusing to me because her episodes are just Billy, right? And if you're scared that you yourself are violent, like it doesn't make sense to me. This is just Hollywood stuff, right? Because her delusions don't really fit any necessary like category. At best, they're bizarre, but it's weird because like is envisioning a person she never knew speaking to her in the last state that he was known to be in, which was stabbed up and all this stuff. How would she know that? And he's telling her what he wants her to do. And this is where Sam goes wrong in Scream 5 and 6. It should be her innate fear, right? Well, her own inner fear that she is bad innately, right? So we shouldn't have Billy at all. That's just there to gather people into the audience. It should be more so we see her being impulsive, risk-taking, her having thoughts. If we are going to do auditory hallucinations and maybe an inner thought, we could have had inner thoughts of, being violent. And this would actually pay off because they try to do this actually in Scream 6, where they actually have her be a little bit more impulsive. But in Scream 5, they don't really pull it off because they want it both ways. They want her to be the new ingenue. Well, she's perfect, she's good, but also she's evil. But they never show you losing her patience with Mindy. That would have been completely justified for Mindy to be like, for her to say, hey, Mindy, that's fucked up. Why would I be the killer? Or losing her patience with anyone, Judy. Right? And if we could see that violent streak, then we know. But it's okay because she's also in a justified position. So if they had done it that way in which, Sam was being violent or impulsive, but holding back, and then at the end we get the payoff of her just going for it, because even the payoff in 5 is terrible because she's forced into that situation. To me, that's self-defense. Yeah, she stabbed him up,
Right.
but like, what else are you going to do in that situation? Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe the throat slit was a little much, but like still though, like she killed him. She had to, right? I feel like the better move would have been to have her make the active choice to kill him in a way that would have been particularly evil or unsavory. To be the payoff of like what they were trying to achieve. Not saying that I agree with it, but if I were doing Sam, I would have nixed Billy because to me that's bad cinematic shorthand and it makes no sense and it's harmful. And I would have done impulsive, violent behaviors that are justified, and we see her struggle against it, and then we do the payoff. They can even have the same movie. When Sidney and Gail tell her, hey, let's go kill this motherfucker, show her be tempted. Her character doesn't make sense. She's not even tempted in that moment. She should be.
Right.
Right? And she has a perfect excuse because Tara's in the car and she needs to make sure she's okay.
So can I just follow up with this? Because like it never even dawned on me to think about like antipsychotics and how one gets antipsychotics. Because right, so she would have had to have had a psychotic episode. Why was that never talked about? Why was that never addressed? It's just like, oh yeah, you got pills. Everybody gets pills these days, right? And that's, I think, reductive. I think there's a lot about Sam in Scream 5, when you really look at the legitimacy of the mental health, it kind of falls apart. And more so even than as you probably go into Scream 6. So, Phil, what are your thoughts on Sam or anything you want to respond to that Jess said?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a really poor depiction. There's really no explanation. She's made out in some ways to just be this bad character. Like, oh, you're bad. Like, you're bad because your mental health's bad, and you're bad because you went and did all these drugs. And they're really, this is part of the problem they're admitting. But like she has that whole interaction with Judy in the hallway, and it's like, well, we don't ever have any discussion from what I can recall around like, well, maybe why she was one, not atypical for a teen or a young person to be dabbling in substances, pretty normal, but also like maybe there are some legitimate reasons why she's using substances, right? She found out her dad's a killer, right? Like in her mom's an alcoholic because her mom is dealing with her own mental health and probably thought that she had slept with the killer in like what people are saying about her. So like there's no exploration into maybe there are reasons for Sam's behavior and why Sam was using. And then, it could have been a scene. It wouldn't have even had to have been this long exposition, but like, yeah, she was using because she was really struggling with the pressures and she didn't know how to handle that, or it probably wouldn't have been too deep for Scream to go into, but, like, people get misdiagnosed. So was she given antipsychotics and she shouldn't have been given antipsychotics?
Well, and that's a way that, in fairness, so in the Scream 7 script that Joy Valisi wrote, I know I literally talk about this every single segment. I don't care. It's a great script. And I put my whole pussy into that, like, performance of Christina Carpenter at the end. So, you know what? I'm going to plug it, okay? Best Supporting Actress, Ryan C. Showers for Christina Carpenter as Ghostface. So, anyways, but, like, so just to be crystal clear. Okay, going back to Joey, and then I'll be crystal clear. So in our script, Joey, he brought back the Billy Visions to try to justify them and make them better. And his excuse to do this was he had Josh, who was Christina's husband, messing with Sam's pills and giving her different pills than what she thought she was taking. So again, smart. But, you know, going back to what we were talking about with Sam overall, this idea that she is mentally ill because her father is a serial killer. I can't help but like want to go back to that and point out like that is kind of the thesis of her character. So I can't imagine what the casual viewer is who's literally just going to scream for entertainment, you know, who's just going to pass the time. So, and it's hard for someone like that, you know, whose brain is kind of turned off to even think like who would probably say, oh yeah, of course, you know, her dad was evil, so she's evil, you know, like it's almost something that's naturally within her. Is that an appropriate reading? Is that a good representation that Scream 5 provided us? Phil, is that accurate?
I mean, I think going back to like what Jess was saying earlier, like maybe there's like with alcoholism, with, you know, certain mental health diagnoses, like there's a biological component. People are more susceptible, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen. You know, and, you know, one of the things I was thinking about too, I think this is like a side tangent. I think another thing that makes Sam's, or how the writers depicted Sam, not thinking about you're giving a psychotic disorder or making this woman psychotic who is also a woman of color. There are a lot in the past and even now, right? People of color, a lot of times when they're experiencing behavioral things, will get slapped with a psychotic disorder. And we're not talking about, you know, the experiences they're having because of religious or spiritual beliefs. We're not talking about the trauma they've experienced because of their identities. Like, so there's this like, there are these other layers too that makes it not good. Like they were trying to be like, look, we're trying to have this diverse cast of people. Awesome, good, should be, because that's what life is. But then on this hand, it's like, do you really know what you were doing?
What you're doing.
Because that's not a good depiction. And it goes into that like, ooh, this is bad, and now this person bad.
But, you know, my issue with Sam as a character and where she lost me as a character is, of course, I talk about it again every episode, don't care, is the scene where she wears Billy's robe at the end and she calls Bailey and has this big moment, you know, and it's weird messaging, right? Because if she is on pills and she's doing this, I don't see this as a heroic moment, but like the way the film plays it, they play it as though we should be cheering her on and we should be cheering on this moment for her. And I just see that as inherently problematic. And I don't know if it was like, I think it was just their stupidity and their like lack of care. The movie's telling us, go, badass bitch, you cunty queen. Yeah. No, she's being a sick pervert.
Yeah. Is it realistic? I would say, like, again, it really depends. I mean, like, for me, I don't know about you, Phil, but I was taught the biopsychosocial model, meaning that biology, psychology, and social matters, right? Your social conditions, all of that play into who you become. Right. And so, like I said, this sort of reductive established like idea, and then the fact that they run with it. And it's the most uninteresting thing about her. That's like the most fucked up thing. Because let's say that she got her pills because she had a substance induced psychotic episode or whatever. Okay. You know, but what does that mean? And what does that have to do with Billy? You know, like I just don't like how they had to make him the center of her psychosis, because it just simply, to me, it does not make sense. You know, typically people choose things like, well, not choose, but it's God, it's Satan, it's, you know, something else. But your father, like, I don't know. I've never heard of that. I'm not an expert in psychosis, but it just doesn't fit, right? It's usually a persecution delusion or like other nature, but like not this. This is so movie, and it's so hard to speak on because it's so unrealistic, right? It's nothing like I've ever heard of, you know? And even within that, like I said, it's the least interesting thing about her. I think they do the best work with her from in 6 when it comes to right? When Sam says, oh, let him have me. I like that scene. I buy
Me
into
too.
that.
Yeah.
I buy into that a lot because, even though it's weird because I feel like they split the guilt between her and Tara too much, you know, it's almost like we have one too many final girls in this franchise, in this situation. But I like that because
Mhm.
it shows her growth as a character, that she's this person who's always wanting to fight. Well, since 6 and 5, I didn't really buy her as a fighter. But this person who's always wanting to fight is willing to give herself up for everyone else. Right? Like, that's
Mhm.
some growth for her character. For me, I think her taking her pills, it does nothing for the story. They rarely do anything. Even the side story of her being depicted as some sort as the killer in, 2022. That doesn't necessarily like they don't do anything with that either, other than have her being harassed. It's like, okay, but why do people believe it? Does it have anything to do with mental health stigma? Does it have anything to do with, her being Latina? And I think Phil makes a wonderful point. Like, they made her into the crazy, Spanish girlfriend, basically, trope. But yeah, it's like they don't do anything with the Billy stuff, with the psychosis that's actually interesting and actually plays into the story in unique ways. It's interesting because she's the psychotic one, but yet Sydney has more interesting scenes with her unreliable perspective in
Yeah.
her own trilogy, which is
Yeah.
like insane to think about because they never do
Right.
anything interesting with Sam's alleged psychosis except they tell little kids that if your parents are evil, you're evil, and also display the worst therapy session I've ever seen with no understanding about what Tarasoff law is or duty to warn, and the worst therapist ever who is going to let you know that he's scared of you and abruptly end session and also demand that you disclose and reject you immediately after with no
In his
referral.
house.
It's the worst in his own house and not lock his files, by the way. His files are just there, so it's just the worst therapist ever depicted on film for me, personally.
Well, and I wouldn't fail to comment on this too, but like and whenever we were in law school, we were taught about, this kind of thing, the duty to warn and negligence in torts. And I learned about this before Scream 6 came out, and I found the Scream 6 scene to be so not realistic, not legal. And different states have different duty to warn laws, like whether so but still, the way that he just jumps to conclusions, like she doesn't even say that she's going to do something. Like, if for it to raise to the place where he took it, you basically have to say, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to kill this specific person at this specific time with this specific object because of this. I'm going to do it right now. Like, that is like the bar that you have to meet for a therapist to take such drastic actions, not what happens in that scene.
Yeah. I hate that scene so much. And I just do. And every time I watch it, like, that was one of the first things when I saw that movie. I was like, this is not realistic.
This
Like,
isn't going to be good.
I
Yeah.
usually go with my friend who's a nurse. And so, like, when there are certain, like, nurse things that happen, she's like, that's not how that happens. And I'm like, this is not what happens for a therapist. First of all, he's in his own house, which maybe that happens in bigger cities. But yeah, the fact that he's completely letting his own worries into the session with her. She's not even saying that she wants to kill anybody. She's just saying, like, oh, yeah, like, my dad was a serial killer and I had to kill this other person out of self-defense because he was going to kill her. Richie was going to kill her. Like, and then dude's like, oh, I got to tell somebody. And then doesn't even lock up his files. Like, Ghostface just barges in and is like, all right, here's the filing cabinet. I don't even have to grab the key to open it.
Full names on his
Right.
files as well. What?
Also, like, it is 2023. You don't have like a cloud, a secure cloud that you're putting your files in. It's paper files. You don't have a software system. What? What?
You could tell your therapist that you committed a crime in the past and they can't report you for that.
Because there's this big, like, at least how we were taught in law school is like there's this big like question about like the social policy of it. Like, if when you have a therapist, you want people to go to therapy because, like, if the therapist is supposed to report everything, no one can trust that their therapist will keep their secrets and actually protect their mental health and actually do what they're supposed to be doing with the mental health. So if you have duty to warn, it decreases the incentive to go to therapy sessions. So it's funny the way that Scream 6 flops it so hard. As Phil said, hashtag there are many problems. So okay, I want to hit the Sam in the robe before we go on to Tara, because that is such a thing I need to know from the therapist here. What do we make of this scene about, so Phil?
Like many things in Scream 5 and 6. I mean, I don't like that scene. And it goes overboard again with her, like, stabbing Bailey like 40 freaking times. Thing wise, they're just trying to be like over the top and really just desensitize that. And that's not necessary. They're trying to make it carnage candy, as Randy would say. And so I don't like that. I don't think we ever revisit in 6 her taking pills again either. Like, we never see that happen. Like, right? Like, we
Right,
see
we
it in
don't.
5, but then now she doesn't need pills. So that's also just bad.
It's a big
It's a
jump,
big
right?
jump. It's also this whole, like, trying too hard, like, yes, Sydney puts on the robe in 1, and it makes sense, and it is for a brief moment, right? Like, she's playing with them, and she's toying with them, like, "You're gonna come after me, like, I'm gonna come after you." But with Sam, it's, like, the writing of it, right? Like, they try to make it something that it doesn't need to be, and, like, right? Like, Billy, like, "Take it and do it," right? And Tara's kinda looking at her like, "Girl, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?"
Sam, stop being
Yeah, like,
weird.
why are you trying to put on your daddy's robe? Like, this is weird. And so I don't like it. I don't. And then and she's fine at the end of the movie, like, "Oh, I'm gonna drop the mask. Like, I'm done." What did I just experience?
Doesn't make sense for someone like Sam to engage in that behavior. No, because even though the question is Sam psychotic, or is Sam like antisocial personality, meaning that is she like, gonna be a serial killer? First of all, we know that Sam isn't antisocial because she cares so much about her friends and is willing to do so much for other people, right? So that question is not even a valid question with the way that they characterize her. So this sort of question that they do, and the answer is that she can just do this sort of thing and then like walk away from it, and it's almost like a different performance from Melissa Barrera. She's like more like, "Oh yeah, aren't I so cool?" After she's like, "Yeah, it's another Tuesday."
Yeah.
Another killer down.
Right, because that doesn't feel like Sam, right? To like for her to minimize this, because if we think back to the therapy session, sorry, I'm not over it. She says the problem with it was that it felt right. And when she says that, I'm like, but girl, he did so much to you. If it felt right, I mean, of course we'll address it in therapy, but like I think any therapist would be like, well, yeah, it was wrong objectively to kill someone, but like to feel right about defending yourself in that way is not evil. It's almost like Sam herself has a very juvenile idea of good and evil. Like she herself doesn't have a gray area, So for me, when it comes down to that scene in general, if I'm thinking about it psychologically, she feels like a completely different character. Because the Sam I know wouldn't leave her sister with multiple stab wounds. I don't even know where Tara is in that scene. Kirby's also bleeding out. There's so many question marks. People need help now. The Sam I know would be climbing up that whatever the fuck they were climbing up and trying to get help, right? Whoever the fuck that was in that robe cared more about cosplaying and getting revenge, because she stabs him that way all around the vest, by the way, all around his vital organs to punish him. So it's
Yeah.
sadistic in nature, right? And then she has the audacity to be like, but I'm not a killer. You're wrong about me. What? Like sadism isn't
Yeah, we aren't
like,
even going that deep. We are just like going the surface level of the movie right
right.
now. I mean, that's how sad it is.
As if it's so blasé, as if she couldn't care less, which is so fucked because these people literally came and destroyed her life and insist upon her that she is some sort of murderer. And it's just like she just brushes it off her shoulders. It doesn't matter. In that scene, that's not Sam. That's an idealized version of whatever this anti-hero is supposed to be for radio silence. Like to me, that's an psychotic. Let's say Melissa Barrera came in for another movie and they said that was her psychotic break, I would believe them because that's not her,
But aren't we lucky? Because like imagine just if Scream 7 would have made her Ghostface. Imagine the mess. If just talking about the pills in Scream 5 and the way that everything's explained there, and just everything we're talking about with the therapy and the general climax of the character in 6. Imagine the mess that they would have made in terms of mental health and depicting mental health if they would have gone there in Scream 7, which they were building to, right? So it's kind of crazy. So let's wrap up on Sam, and then I want to hit Tara real quick. So Phil, any final thoughts here about Sam?
Just try to make her this character. They have Sydney, right? Like in Final Girl, right?
Yes.
And then you bring in Jill, right? And for like, she was supposed to be like Sydney 2.0, and that gets flipped on its head. And then I think what they're trying to do here is like have this like gray area character, like, ooh, is she a killer? Is she not? Ooh, she likes it. Like that's something different. And it's just trying to be too edgy and not in a good way.
Yeah. Jess, any final thoughts on Sam?
Yeah, it's just not believable. From 5 to 6, they feel like two completely different characters. 6 is more on track with what they wanted before the ending in terms of like her being more impulsive, being more, aggressive. Like, I'm like, okay, finally you got your own memo apparently about what this character's supposed to be. And then they go off the walls with it. Like, it's just too much. And to the point where I think the character killing moment is when Tara finally tells her, no, I'm not okay. And then Melissa just goes like she's annoyed by it. Isn't this what you've been waiting to hear this whole fucking time? That your sister's not okay and she's ready for help and you're just like completely closed off. It's terrible. It's actually character assassination in my eyes, because after that I'm like, I don't care about Sam.
Yeah.
She seems like a horrible person, and it's bad because this is not realistic. People don't make these huge leaps and jumps in personality. You don't go from being someone like Sam who cares deeply for her family and just completely lacking empathy and being a void and being able to commit violence of that nature. And when I say that specifically, her decision to be sadistic and to do that in front of her sister and stab him in the eye and stuff like that, it just seems like such a leap. And I'm actually glad we didn't get to see whatever they were going to do with her in Scream 7.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the other sister here. Before Scream 6 came out, I was actually on the podcast saying, ooh, it's going to be so interesting to see Tara's trauma, because she was probably the most traumatized person in Scream 5 going into Scream 6. It'll be so interesting to see where she is and how she deals with it. She'll be much more traumatized than Sam is. Like, because she's victimized in the opening. She's victimized at the hospital, because she goes through everything that happens in the finale as well. So she should have been, like, her trauma should have been done so well, especially with Jenna's acting abilities, right? It would have been a recipe for a great character moment for her. And instead, what do they give us? They give us a storyline about Tara. The way that they explore Tara's mental health is through her wanting to engage in date rape and to work through this trauma. At least that's the surface of it. And then throughout the rest of the movie, I think that there are glimmers of like her whenever she and Sam are talking in the shrine and she and Kirby, but like it's just, it never breaks through, because like even in both of those scenes, those moments, the big moments, those scenes are stolen by Hayden and Melissa. And Jenna's still she just fades into the background. They never actually fully develop Tara in terms of what she's feeling, why she's feeling it, how she made sense of everything that happened in Woodsboro, other than I'm going to just, try to void out and black out and go have sex with this random guy who's wanting to get me drunk and fuck me. That to me is really weird and gross. And I think it's just almost like the worst thing you could have done. Like, of all of the options in the world, that just seems like the worst. I don't know. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, once again, just poor writing. It's poor writing and directing, because sure, someone who's experienced trauma, like, they're gonna use different means to manage the things that they're experiencing and the symptoms that they're experiencing. So, okay, maybe Tara's way of dealing with that would have been like, you know what, I'm gonna go to college, I'm away, like, I'm gonna drink and I'm gonna forget. And like, there's actually a lot more that could have been done with that, of like, well, right, claims, right, like her mom's in AA based on the opening of Scream 5, right? Like, there could have been this deeper, even though like, okay, you're going to a college party, like, once again, it's the in your face. It's not subtle, it's not artistic. It's like, okay, this dude's taking you up to his room so he can get you more drunk and rape you, right? Like, and it's just like out there in the open, and it's not like, because at first I'm like, ooh, girl, don't go upstairs. Don't, like, if you are smart as an audience member, you have an idea of what's about to happen, right? Like, it doesn't need to be just blatantly put out there. And I mean, in some ways, I like her depiction of like her interaction with Sam, of like, you have to let me go. You have to let me grow, which I think is that's a realistic thing, especially for students in college, because that's the population I work with, of like, you have to allow them some independence and to learn about themselves. And she's trying to figure it out on her own, but then she has all this other stuff going on around her. So like, I think it's really about the writing. Like, I don't like how it's depicted. And then like this whole, like, now she's in love with Chad. And I'm like, well, where did that come from? Like, what? Like, there's not a buildup where, like, with Gale and Dewey, right? Like, we'll use them as an example. Like, you see it over time. There's this buildup. It just feels forced and abrupt. Everything feels forced and abrupt,
Right.
with both of those movies, with 5 and 6, because of the writing, and probably because, like, great, 5 was really successful, so we want to crank out another one really fast, and there wasn't this thought through character development and how do we do this in these ways. And so it then plays out with these characters where you're just like, what are you doing? That doesn't make sense for your character. We don't
Yeah.
ever hear her talk about like, yeah, I was attacked in nearly filleted last night, right? In the opening, and then like I'm in the hospital, this place I'm supposed to be safe and recovering, and I'm attacked again. And then I'm put in the closet by my friend who's a killer, right? Like, and have to beat her up with a crutch. Like, but she still enjoys the Babadook. Like, there's just all this stuff. I like her more than Sam, but
Yeah, it's just a missed opportunity, right? Because of everything you just described before the Babadook, of course. It's all very serious stuff and very traumatizing, and they just kind of waste it on this weird frat party setting. And I can't even imagine, like, if I was friends with Tara, I don't even know, like, I would be so dumbfounded by this. I just doesn't make sense to me on a human level. I can't even put myself in her shoes thinking, like, of all the ways to carry out your trauma, like, that is just, like, not the first 3,000 things that I would think of.
the pieces don't add up.
Right. Jess, what are your thoughts on Tara here?
Yeah, it's probably one of the most confounding things the series has ever done. Because I think that where they lost their track was that I think that like how they were going to split the impact was that, remember the original idea, Amber was going to be her girlfriend. And so Tara was probably going to have that little like partner anxiety. And then
Yeah.
Sam would have the survivor's guilt. But even in 6, it's so clearly like more appropriate for Tara to have the survivor's guilt since it was her friend group that basically died. Like, I get it. Sam babysat them, but like Tara knew them, and she was attacked, like we said, more than anyone, But because we can't take that from Sam, Tara's put on this island where I don't know what they did because like the setup, I get what they're going for. There's a lot of ghost face around. I can understand drinking more. I can understand needing to avoid. I can understand Tara not wanting to tell that guy where she's from. It lets us know, well, she's trying to be anonymous. She just wants to live a normal life. I will never understand going up to a strange room for Fireball. That actually offends me. But it's all a bad decision. But where it goes off the rails for me is where clearly this guy has identified her already and she still wants to go up. And I'm like, okay, that's already bad, but you don't understand the motivation of your own character. But then Chad comes in and then this guy starts trying to drag her up the stairs. And this girl is still trying to go up those stairs. And I'm like, okay, like this doesn't make any sense. That's where like the scene had logic and then it just loses it. And almost like I don't know. It's like, once again, more character assassination because then it gets even worse. Because then when she's standing there yelling at Sam, where Sam is like, that guy was going to take advantage of you. And this bitch is like, so. And I'm just like, Sam can't be antisocial personality because I would have slapped the shit out of that bitch. No, like, what do you mean so? Like with the grace of God, she's just standing there while this girl is screaming at her to let her get assaulted. Let me have the freedom, Sam. Like, what? It's so bad.
It's
And
like
then-
and Phil said,
yeah.
it's kind of good in theory, like the idea of the let me go, but then what was letting her go to go I get sexually assaulted? That's weird. Weird.
To say the least. And it
Yes.
gets worse because it gets worse. Because when Sam gets attacked, you notice that Tara didn't even skip a beat. She just walked away. Like, how selfish is that?
Can I just say, I think Jenna's acting in Scream 6 is actually very lazy. You could just tell she does not want to be there. There's just no passion behind anything she does in Scream 6. I guess until the end when Tara says that she realizes she needs therapy, but how does she realize that? Like, there's never a breakthrough moment where, it's just kind of like, I guess you're right, Sam. But anyway, so yikes, this has been a good conversation. And I think that like it's illuminated a lot of things for people. I hope so. Just in terms of like, some of this stuff, it plays when you're watching the movie like normal because it's a very Hollywoodification of mental health. But it's just neither of these depictions of mental health of Sam and Tara, I think, hold a candle to Sidney. And I hope that hope Kevin kind of gets back on track in terms of being respectful, subtle, everything, feeling honest about mental health in the next era of Scream.
So, I mean, hopeful. Yes, let's see what it looks like. We get to see Sidney in a new era as a parent and more so than what we saw in 5. Hopefully we didn't talk about her at all, but like, what is Gail experiencing? Kind of her arc and her mental health and grief that she's experienced. And just like the impact of everybody else, the impact of Sid's kids and like generational trauma. Like we kind of see it in Halloween in a way, but not very good. Like Karen was also done as a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like
the reason why I'm leaving Gail on the cutting room floor is because I don't think there has been quite enough. I think that we'll have a better discussion about
there we
Gail
go.
after Scream 7. We're at a place right now with Gail where Scream 7 is going to be make or break for her in terms of a character arc, in terms of saving what happened in 6. Phil, it was so nice to see you. I want to give you a big hug. Thanks for coming. And I'm just going to steal this from you. So usually I ask people, where can they find you? But you can find Phil at PDougie05, as I say in the RuPaul voice. I don't know why I have this joke, but it is what it is. So
yes, thanks.
Anyways, thank you, Phil. And Jess, any final words?
Yeah, I guess one final thing on Tara that boggles my mind is that they had a good arc there. And it's the Hayden scene where she says, I want to make the monsters afraid of me. Because that makes so much sense for her, because she was victimized quite brutally last movie. And yet we don't do anything with that except have her make a guy die a virgin, allegedly. So yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I'm excited for 7. I'm hoping that, we go back to like telling stories with some class, offense intended. Because this is really bad. Like, I hadn't watched 6 since it came out, and when rewatch, I was like, wow, this is why I haven't watched this. It's really hard to get through these movies, these past 2, because the mistakes and then like the mental health stuff is just so annoying, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Jess, where can they find you online?
Oh yeah, I'm RavenFX on Twitter and Blue Sky.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. And actually, this isn't just Scream with Ryan today. This is Scream with Ryan and Nuala. Welcome, Nuala. Oh my gosh, Nuala, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. I'm very happy to be here. It's a long time in the making.
No, I mean, so Nuala has been on the podcast before in different situations. Like, I remember Nuala back in like the early days of the Patreon, people, because also people, Nuala is an OG Patreon. She's been here from the beginning, which I love. I love, it's just like having a relationship with someone like you, Nuala, that spans over 3, 4, going on 5 years. Like that is, that's special. So thank you so much for being along this journey with me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Well, so Nuala, there's a couple of things we're going to get to here. But for me, I really wanted you to have this moment. So we're in season 5 of Scream with Ryan C. Showers, and I want to really highlight people who have been there to sustain the podcast and who have held my hand as we've gone through the many ups and downs of Scream 5, Dewey dies, then Nev doesn't come back for Scream 6, and then, the writers...
Still reeling from that.
But then the writers' strike happens, and then Scream 7 is delayed, and then Landon comes in, Radio Silence is out, and then Melissa is gone, then Jenna is gone, and then what do we do? And then Nev comes back, and then it's about shaking out a director. We get our director, and so I mean, there has been a lot that has happened over the life of this podcast. You have been one of the people there with me, basically from the beginning, so...
I love the fact that I sort of was there from the beginning and been able to see your evolution as you get better and better and more professional and more exciting, and just being such a great resource for Scream fans.
I'm blushing. So thank you very much, Nuala. Well, I wanted to just talk about part of that evolution, which is you. So if anybody wants to trace the Taylor Swiftism of Scream with Ryan C. Showers and why we have a Taylor Swift song of the day every episode is because of Nuala, in a way. There was a group Zoom that we were at. I think it had to have been during the Eras tour, like in the first fall of the football, right? Of Taylor going to the football games, where you said to me, it was like, I think like an October Zoom, maybe it was trivia night. And you volunteered, because there were a couple people that were going on, like Sarah from Australia was there, of course, Ashley. Everyone was talking about Taylor Swift. And you said something to the effect of like, hey, Ryan, you should start a Ryan C. Showers Swiftie group chat. Because I have group chats as part of the Patreon. So from the group chat led on to build and build and build to now Taylor Swift is a permanent part of Scream with Ryan C. Showers, which is so fun. But so I attribute you as part of one of the engineers of Taylor Swift being a part of the podcast. So thank you, Nuala.
Thank you. I find it so cool that there's such a crossover between Scream fans and Taylor Swift fans. And even if you're only like a really casual Scream fan, you're probably a Taylor fan. And if you're a really big Swiftie, you could still get into Scream. Like I think there's a lot of overlap there. And I find that really interesting because one is not like the other.
So, but do you remember saying that?
I do remember saying that. And I just remember thinking, there are so many people here who love Taylor and who also love Scream. Why is this not like a separate thing?
Yeah.
Why don't we bring all the people who love Taylor together? And we already know that we love the Scream franchise. Why not have like a little Scream Swiftie group that we can talk about another thing that we love, another thing that brings us joy?
Well, it's so funny too, because I always liked Taylor growing up and knowing her from a distance. I was never really into music, but and I owned Reputation like on my phone. I loved Folklore. Folklore was like whenever I became a fan, I would say. And then read Taylor's version is like whenever I became a Swiftie, where I was like into the lore, into the lyrics, loving it. And then it was really this conversation that night back in like, let's just say October of 23. I think it was like the think we had a trivia night that night, and you suggested this. But from that point on is like whenever I really became part of the Swiftie fandom in a way, because I had the Patreons, people like you know, who loved Taylor and kind of like encouraged me to be, you know, and then like by, you know, a couple months later, you know, I was dealing with some really hard stuff in terms of like, you know, being online and kind of like I kind of use Taylor as like a vessel, I would say, to kind of like deal and cope with just like the unfair online harassment I received from Melissa's fans. And the shit hits deep. But part of that too is like then I started just sprinkling references to Taylor throughout different episodes and here and there. Then it just led to, well, why not have a song in each episode that ties to the topic at hand? And I love it. So, but anything you want to share about the Taylor Swift of it all?
Well, I want to say how much it's been a joy to watch your Swiftyhood develop. Because from that initial chat that we had, the group chat, and then to see you slowly sort of come into the fandom and come into your Swiftydom and get more joy from it and like mine more value out of the lyrics and out of the situations. And I think one of the great things about not only Taylor, but about, you know, the popular culture that we love itself is that can be used as a comfort. It can be used as a shield when things are not going well for you, when you need a little bit more of a thing to pick you up to make you feel stronger. You can go back to that music. You can go back to those movies. And when you have hard times in your life, you can use those as a salve.
So, Nuala, you've never really talked about Taylor in terms of like the eras. I'm just curious. So,
Sure.
What is your favorite album, or what's your favorite era, or what are your favorite albums, if you want to say?
I love Red, Midnights, and I love Folklore. I go back and forth between different albums because I'm a very controversial fan. I did not like the last album. For me at the minute, Taylor is like all the albums that came before. I love the fact that that's when she went from, that was her last album that was marketed as a country album. And she's gone from Red, and then she's had so many like sonic jumps since then, and has not been afraid to do different things, even if it hits, even if it doesn't. Like, I think there's something that lets you know that an artist is going to have a long-term career when they're not afraid to do something new and fail or succeed and then keep going. So for me, I really love Red, and I really sort of love probably Folklore is probably my second favorite.
Well, you know, Red is my favorite album. So I love that we get to be kind of Red siblings here.
Yay!
And another thing about Nuala that is fun is that her favorite Scream sequel is my favorite Scream sequel, which is Scream 3. And we'll talk about your Scream stuff in a bit. So I love that we get to be like Scream 3 Red people, just like marching through life as friends. So, but like before we get to Scream, I'm actually doing the Taylor Swift song of the day with Nuala today instead of with Ashley. This is just something like, you know, whenever the situation calls for it, like I did with Quentin, we did Death by a Thousand Cuts in the companion episode. So I asked Nuala to give me a couple of her favorite songs, and so Nuala, what did we pick for the Taylor Swift song of the day?
So for today's episode, we have picked The Last Time from Red. It's her duet with Gary Lightbody of Snow Patrol.
And this is track 10, I believe, on Red.
It's a bit of a personal thing. When I heard this song first, I was going through some pretty dramatic relationship stuff. So it really spoke to me then. But it was the first thing that sort of shook me out of sort of my coma, if you will, and made me go, this is not going to work. I have to leave, or I have to knuckle down and keep trying to make it work. And I knew that it wasn't going to work. So this is the first song that made me go, it's time to go. And it gave me the strength to keep doing the hard things that I had to do. So it's really cathartic in a way for me to listen to this song.
Well,
Yeah.
so it's funny because as a Red person, you know, I used to, whenever like I was like who I am now as a Swiftie and as just a person, as like an academic of Taylor, I would say, you know, I'm much different than I was even just last year. Like that's the fun thing about Taylor is like, you know, we're constantly changing and evolving, and like her music's hitting in different ways. And this song used to kind of be more at the bottom of my Red ranking, and I couldn't tell you why. So like if you would have asked me to rank my favorite album last summer, The Last Time probably would have been in the bottom 5. And in fairness, there are like 30 songs. I mean, like it's really hard to rank Red. But as like the year has passed, it's definitely moved up in my ranking of Red. And it's a collaboration, and she does a collaboration every once in a while. She has actually on Red, this is at least her second collaboration. She has one with Ed Sheeran, which is called Everything Has Changed, which is one of my favorite songs. But this song, you know, her collaboration, it kind of throws me off a bit because how it starts out is like it's not her singing the first minute of this song. It's Gary.
Mm.
That has always kind of been like at first, it was kind of a block for me because I wanted to hear her, but it's done in such a beautiful way. The fun thing about this song is even the way it starts. It starts with a big bong, dun, 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 and then we hear a deep man voice. And then from there, it starts to tell the story. And the thing I like about this, and it kind of resembles the song Exile from Folklore in a way.
I love Exile.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too on Folklore. But it's basically like a conversation that two people who are in a relationship are having, or who are kind of like on the last strings of a relationship, I would say. And that's so basically the song starts out where the guy says, I find myself at your door, blah, 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 blah. And then we hear Taylor come in a couple minutes later. You find yourself at my door. I'm just hoping, blah, 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 blah. And basically, like the guy is asking for forgiveness again, or he's asking for another chance. And this has obviously been a relationship where they have done it before. Like, the guy is fucked up, the girl's forgiven them, and they got back together. And basically, this song is kind of conveying Taylor talking about, like, this is the last time I'm doing this. This is like, I'm giving you one last chance. Like, I will give you this chance, but it's the last time. Like, you've broken my heart too many times. I'll give you this one last try, but then after that, I'm done. And it's just interesting to see it from both perspectives. I do identify, of course, more with the female perspective here, but Nuala, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of my top 5 favorite collaborations Taylor has done with another artist.
Yeah.
I love the way her voice and Gary's fit together, and they make up these, like, the dueling voices of the lovers falling out of love for the final time. It's really perfect, and it's every time you listen to it, it's a new kind of heartbreak, but it's like a bittersweet heartbreak. And the other thing I find really interesting about The Last Time is that on the same album, you've got a song, a pure tongue-in-cheek pop song like We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. And then you've got The Last Time, which is the complete opposite. So I just love that there's that dynamic on the album.
And it's kind of, they're close together, right? I mean, like in the
Right.
album, like it's like, I think Never Ever is like track 8 and this is track 10. So I mean, like, the contrast of that. And also, like, the thing about Red I love is that, like, it's an album that is about your first big devastating heartbreak and the lessons you learn from that as an adult. Like, it's different when you're in high school versus like whenever you're like out of high school trying to be an adult and something like this really happens and you're in a real adult relationship and it ends. I mean, that happens. It's inevitable for most people. Red is so each song is like a necessary chapter in this big mosaic of like devastation of that big first devastating breakup. And, I think The Last Time is actually a very fitting, appropriate, necessary story in this larger arc, right? Is like, whenever you're with somebody and they've consistently let you down, but there's still nostalgia or there's still hope, you still want to give them that last chance, that last try. So, and I do think that you're right though, in the way that their voices blend together, because Gary Lightfoot, he is like, his voice is so deep. And then you have Taylor's, which is, I feel like it's even extra feminine in a way. So the contrast in like how gritty his is versus how soft hers is, it really works for what the song is trying to convey, like the emotions.
Right. It's almost like her voice is extra light and extra delicate. It's like, I'm giving you this last chance. Don't break my heart because I'm at this delicate stage. This is it. If you mess up, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something I just wanted to kind of close out on the Taylor Swift song of the day. There's something very beautiful about this song. And because like I don't consider it very lyric heavy, at least in the way that it's executed. There's almost something dreamlike about it, like where you get like you get what each person's trying to say. But even in the way that they sing some of the things, like, like in the lead up to the chorus, it's kind of quiet and muffled in a way, which I think is interesting. Again, two people not being able to understand each other. And then, of course, a lot of the song is them singing back and forth to each other. This is the last time. This is the last time. And like, again, two different perspectives. The guy is saying, this is the last time I will fuck up, I swear. And the girl is saying, well, this is the last time I'm giving you this opportunity. So it's just so beautiful.
It is. It's a really lovely song. Thank you so much.
Let's transition now to some Scream talk. So Nuala, you've been a part of the podcast for a long time, but I don't think you've actually ever given your Scream story. So please tell me, tell the listeners, tell the world, what is your Scream story?
Well, Scream came out when I was in year 7th grade. And at the time, I wasn't a big horror movie fan, but I had a best friend who was a complete horror movie nut. I was staying at her house one weekend and we watched The Shining. And she's like, if you can handle this, you can totally handle Scream. So the next weekend we went and we rented Scream on VHS because we're old and watched it. And I was obsessed from like minute one. It was sensational. I was completely thrown by Casey's death because 1996, not a lot of internet rumors. So there was nobody to spoil it for you. You could have a genuine experience watching it for the first time. And then from there, just both of us became totally obsessed with Scream. In fact, the Blockbuster near my house at the time, I rented it so many times from that Blockbuster that when they went out of business, maybe 5 years later, and I went in to buy it, the guy's like, "Take it, it's yours. You
Aw.
paid for it already in rentals." So that was pretty cool, and I still have that VHS copy.
Amazing.
That's
That
pretty
is
cool. Yeah.
sweet. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I'm sure he thought, like, "Why is this weird person coming in here renting this movie? Should we be worried? Should we be calling the cops on her?" But, it was pretty cool.
That is like that's such a treasure when you know somebody
Yeah.
like that. Like so that's so cool.
Mhm. And I love that I have it in that format now because gone now, like, it's rare, so that's really cool. And then just from there, anything I could get my hands on, like, I even remember going into downtown. I was living in Melbourne at the time, going downtown and, like, special ordering the script, because at the time you could only get it from the US, and I, like, special ordered the script, and it came, and I was so excited because it wasn't just the first movie, it was the second one as well. So excited. I just knew it back and forth. It was great. I still have that as well, so that's really cool.
I love that. Well, so from the original,
Mhm.
let's talk your series ranking. So how do you rank the 6 movies so far?
Just 1, 3, 2,
Uh-huh.
4, 5, 6,
Okay.
and that has changed recently.
Well, tell me about it.
I rewatched 4, 5, and 6, and I realized that I prefer the Wes directed movies.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight against Radio Silence. It's just I'm an OG fan, and I prefer the OG director, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah.
so tell me about like 1, 3, and 2 and how you came to that ranking and even the Radio Silence era. So if you want to just run through like how you see each film, I would love to hear.
Well, the first Scream is my favorite. I don't think anything will ever beat it. It's just that those magical experiences you have as a teenager when you see films and they really resonate with you and they stick in your head. And Sydney really resonated with me as a strong female character because there wasn't like a huge amount of strong female characters in the 90s. I mean, there was things like Xena and that sort of stuff, but we didn't have the same amount of women to look up to that we do today. So that's always going to stick with me, number one. Number 3, I actually did not like when I saw it originally, but it has grown on me and grown on me since. And as I've understood the mythology more, I've understood that it was really important to Sydney's arc to have the brother. And it gives a bit more resonance to what happened with Maureen, obviously, and that sort of thing. I really love the mythology of the franchise, and I think that's why I keep coming back to the OG movies. And number 2, I think it's the film school sequence with Dewey and Gale. And when Gail is trapped in that recording studio and she's playing like cat and mouse with Ghostface. And I remember seeing that in the cinema and like being like completely still in my chair going, "Oh my God, don't let him find you. Don't let him find you." And then the shock of Dewey being targeted and Gail can't get to him in time. Like that again was just such a mind-blowing moment for like a first-time viewing that it just really stuck with me.
Well,
Yeah.
so what's your opinion on the Radio Silence era?
I think for me, the Radio Silence era feels a little bit like an extended universe Scream film. Like we've got different main characters with a few of the OGs, but to me, it doesn't feel like an original Scream movie. Like it feels like something so you'll have like one show and then they'll have like a spin-off show. It feels a wee bit like a spin-off show version of a Scream movie for me, both of them, and especially 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And like honestly, I love you. I have to say, I knew you before you really became a 3 fan, right? So so that was short lived. I feel like most of my memory of you is being the person who discovered Scream 3 along kind of like with the podcast, and then like seeing your expression of that on social media has been so fun to me, like on Letterboxd and like whenever you post things like in the groups and stuff, and just seeing how much you truly do champion Scream 3, and for me, like it's all you're kind of like the ideal person in my head when I think of like somebody who didn't love Scream 3 before, or it didn't like it as much as you do now, and to see you just so proud of Scream 3 and like everything you said about the mythology is so true, and that is why like Scream 3 is so important because of the mythology, because of the backstory and the connection to Scream 1, but also the way it builds off of Scream 2. Like it's so important in terms of that storyline and that arc. It's so I just love that you have a shared sense of pride about that. So thank you.
I do. And I think my sticking point with 3 originally was like when 3 came out, I think I was first year college, right? So I was just mad that it wasn't as scary and as exciting as the previous ones. I was sort of mad about the more comedic tone. And it took me time to get over that and to like really like be able to analyze it in a way that let me see all the pieces that were there and not just like the surface level stuff people were judging it on, you know? So watching it at like 21 and then watching it at 41 is a completely different experience. And you're able to read what Wes had and Kevin and Aaron had intended. Yeah.
Well, I love that. So it's just something that, like, whenever I see you championing 3, it just inspires me. Thank you. So before we talk about Scream 7 and kind of beyond Scream 7, because that's going to be part of our discussion here, I want to go through the speed run with you. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Sidney, Gail, or Ty?
Sidney.
Sam or Tara?
Can I say neither? Is that too
Sure.
controversial?
No, do it.
Okay, neither.
Okay. Dewey or Chad?
Come on now.
I know, right? I've literally never had anybody say Chad.
Thirsty girl in front of you here who loves Chad, but like Dewey is my boy.
Exactly. Favorite movie buff across the franchise?
Randy.
Favorite killer?
Stu.
Ooh. Okay. This is going to be interesting. Oh no, we have a good topic later on. Okay. Favorite opening and favorite finale?
My favorite opening is Casey.
Okay.
And my favorite finale is probably 3. It's probably 3. It's very, very close between 2 and 3.
Love it. I love it.
3's ending. I love the fact it's a group effort.
Yeah.
Like Sydney's trying to face off with Roman, and Gail and Dewey are doing their darndest to get to our girl to help her. Like I love that dynamic that all 3 of them have each other's back no matter what. They're going to do everything that they can to keep each other safe. I think the ending in Scream 3 where Sid opens the gates and she's running up the drive of the Cherokee and that musical score comes in every single time. I'm like getting a tear going, you got your freedom, girl. It's all good. Like it's just
exactly.
It's so good. Yeah.
All right. Favorite kill or death?
I really like Quinn's.
Is funny. Like, it's also kind of
And
amazing that Sam's shot is so good. I don't know.
Like straight between the eyes. And I also love just right before when she says, looks like you're down another brother.
It's a great line. And honestly, like, if Sam can nail a shot like that, she should be in the military. Like, I don't know.
She should be, yeah.
Funny
this
moment,
is not it's not stormtrooper shooting. It's like it's a shot straight away.
But also, like, that whole moment, like, for me, I have some serious issues with the finale of Scream 6. And that's not a news flash to anybody, right? Because of everything. But, like,
I'm definitely in that boat too.
Well, but like that whole moment is actually really good because it's like, you have Sam holding Tara on the ledge. Quinn walks up and she puts her knife on the balcony and she like makes a really nasty sound. She has like a crazy look on her face, and Sam gets like a moment to look really badass, and she has that sassy comment to her, and then kaboom. Like that's a great moment. And for Melissa, for Sam, for the movie, I love it. So I'm glad that you said that.
That's probably my favorite part of the movie.
All right. Do you have a favorite supporting role across the franchise?
I love Hallie.
I love Hallie too.
She's not in it long enough. She's fantastic. She's the kind of friend you would want at college. Trying to get you out of your funk, get you to do things like just get that, college experience, be normal.
And I feel like she's very delicate of Sidney. She doesn't like push. I feel like Tatum is kind of, I love Tatum as a character. She's a great character, but like.
I do too.
I think
she's pushy.
Yeah, she's pushy. And I think Hallie is a better friend to Sidney, where she's like, I'll be there for you, whatever you need.
I think Hallie's more considerate of Sid's trauma.
Yeah.
But then that's the difference between being 17 and being 18, 19. It's just that little bit of extra life experience to know what folks need. Yeah. But yeah, I think Hallie was a really good fit for Sid to be roomies with, and I'm really sad that she went.
Yeah, part of me wishes like I would love to think of a world where Hallie survived and she and Sidney are still friends today.
Well, Joel survived, so let's hope we see him soon.
Right.
Because he's awesome. He is the only smart person in the entire franchise. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna go now. You guys figure this shit out. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right. Are you yay or nay on the TV series?
I liked some of the work some of the actors did in it, especially the first series, the 2 female leads, but I didn't love it as an overall experience.
Yeah. No, as a Scream experience, especially.
It wasn't for me. Yeah. And the fact that they used a different mask did annoy me. It was just like, I was just like, what the heck is that?
All right. What is your favorite thing about Scream?
I think it's the murder mystery aspect, but also you have these OG characters and some new characters who, despite these absolutely horrendous things happening to them, they find a way to group together and survive. Yeah. They find a way against all odds, like the worst possible thing that could happen in your life, and they find a way to overcome and survive. I think that's what I love.
I love that too. Yeah. All right, so I have a question for you that's not about like Scream per se, but it's about the podcast. I'm just curious, what is your favorite thing or your favorite memory of the podcast?
I think doing today, and that's not me kissing butt, I think doing today but also I think all the friends that I've made, like folks, like-minded folks that I've met over the years and had a chance to talk to, and had that sense of community in the fandom. Before, like when I got into Scream first, the internet was like really in its early stages, and there wasn't really the same sort of like, Discord, podcast, that kind of stuff. So to be able to have a fan group where it's more like a little social club, really, isn't it? And we're just trading ideas and trading favorite moments and getting excited for the new movies that are coming up. I think that's fantastic.
Well, thank you. I mean, like I think the podcast and the Patreon are cool for many respects. Like, there's an element that's fun just to be in a group chat. I feel like with the Patreon, there's an element of like filtering out. You don't just have like random people in it. It's people who are invested in the podcast and like invested in the vision, if that makes sense. And like I feel like we don't really have any riffraff. It's all just kind of like really people who are coming from the heart. So that's one. But like two, then not only do you get to like chat with these people, right, in our social groups, but you also have the opportunity to come to the Zoom every month and meet them. And like whenever we did the Zooms before, like the early days of the Patreon, we weren't doing the recordings. It was just a hangout. So it was really fun. Like, and you get to record other episodes with these people. So there's a whole other way of interacting with Scream than you would get in like any other type of situation. But yeah, well, Nuala, thank you so much for your speed round. Let's move on now to Scream 7. You wanted to discuss what it would be like for the legacies going forward. Scream 7 happens. What happens then? So, Nuala, I ask you, let's start with just Scream 7, your thoughts on Scream 7, and then we'll take it from there.
I am insanely excited that both Sid and Gail are coming back. I'm super excited to see Sid's kids. I would have loved if they could have worked it that Sid's husband hadn't been changed out, but unfortunately scheduling and all that sort of stuff happened. I'm really curious about how they're going to bring AI into the murders or use them as a weapon against the victims or the would-be victims. I'm a little bit concerned about it, but I think it has a possibility of being interesting if it's done smartly. I'm also curious about how, if we get to the end of Scream 7 and Sid survives, because even though I want her to survive, I don't think it's always a given. Even though Nev has said she wouldn't come back unless she was going to live. I'm just curious how Sidney will keep dealing with this threat to her life and to her family's lives. Like it's like, if you think about it, it's this cycle of oppression and misery and murder that was set off by John Milton all those years ago. I don't think, her kids, can't see Sid wanting her kids to inherit the same trauma. And I also don't see where the series could end logically. Like I'll be really interested to see where, like if we get I think we're going to get an 8, right? Where the 8 will end, because unlike other horror franchises, Ghostface isn't one person. So there's no definitive way to like definitively end the Ghostface murders. So it'll be really super interesting to see where the writers go with that.
Yeah. Well, so can I ask, would you, I assume, I feel like people who love Scream 3 and who get Scream 3, there is only one way to tell a Scream story, and that is a trilogy. It's an Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. It's like building to something. Would you want to see a full trilogy about Sidney and her family that's like a 2.0 in a kind of a way?
I think I would, if it was done with the same care as 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not ragging on 5, 6 when I say that, but I mean like 1, 2, 3 feels like a complete trilogy. Yeah. And then potentially 7, 8, 9 would feel like a complete trilogy.
4, 5, and 6, they're kind of like the oddball trilogy in a way. I don't know, whereas I would love to have like a beginning chapter, middle chapter, and end chapter, like the original trilogy, like the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy, for lack of a better comparison. I'm glad. Well, Nuala, in terms of like where we go after Scream 7, because like Scream 7, we already have a guaranteed. It's a Sidney-led story. Nev Campbell is the main character again. After that, like you kind of brought up to me, you wanted to discuss like the role of the legacy now going forward. And what are your thoughts there?
Going forward, I think I really want to see Sid and Gail continue to be a part of this. I think, and this is not going to come to a surprise to anybody who's heard me talk on this before, I think killing Dewey was like a massive mistake.
Yeah. I
know the writers felt like they had to do they had to, raise the stakes. I can't remember what Amber says. Our movie has stakes. Yeah. But I just feel like it was a big misstep. It felt like more like the writers personally didn't like the character and thought, oh boy, I'm writing this now, I can get rid of him, rather than an actual thought out concept for the movie. The thing was about the original characters is, and especially Dewey, is he was one of those rare characters in film. He's not afraid to show his emotions. He's not afraid to show this like vulnerability or his affection and love towards the people he cares about. And it's so rare, especially in the 90s, but also now, it's so rare to have a male identified character especially in a horror movie, be so open with his emotion and his true nature. So the fact that he was like the first of the OGs on the chopping block
Yeah.
was kind of disappointing. But I'll be interested to see how they return him in 7, whether it's going to be like an AI voice that the killer used to taunt people, or like in flashbacks or a video like Randy in Scream 3, or the least likely I think would be witness protection.
Well, I think
But
that's also least likely. Agreed.
let's be fair, Chad should not have survived 6. I love the dude, but Chad should not have survived 6. So if Chad can survive 6, I'm just saying, might be a tiny little chance there.
Well, I feel like I feel like not only Chad, but I feel like Mindy. I mean, like to get stabbed in the
Yeah.
stomach like that, I agree. But Chad, I agree. Like ridiculous. So, before we started recording today, you brought up to me the idea of Stu coming back. So first of all, you referenced Stu as your favorite killer. In the speed round, specifically about Stu, what are your thoughts on Matthew Lillard's return and kind of like this marketing campaign, which by the way, a lot of people think that it's kind of that, like some people have said they found it disappointing to hear that Scott Foley, David Arquette, and Matthew Lillard have been announced as returning. I disagree though, because it's just created a new sense of hype around the movie. Like even like when Parker Posey the other day came out and she said she wanted to come back, all of the articles were written as Parker Posey weighs in that she wants to join the returning people who are returning somehow, or like the returning actors. Like, so what are your thoughts on Matthew Lillard and like this big emphasis on Stu? Because there has been like over the years, this idea that Stu fans wanting him to be alive in the way that like the rumored drafts of Kevin's original script for Scream 3 had him alive. So what are your thoughts, Nuala?
I think that if they do it in a really clever way and not in a lame way, I'll be on board. I was never a Stu truther. I was not down for that. Like it's like a flippin' cathode ray TV fell on him, guys. It's like 20 kilos, like, but I'm thrilled that Matthew's coming back. I mean, more Matthew Lillard in a Scream movie is not a bad thing for me. I just really hope that they do it in a clever way that doesn't leave OG fans going, what the heck was that? Like he's been kept alive somewhere in some government facility and now he's broken out to be a serial killer again. Like that would kind of be lame, but I hope they're able to do it in a really clever way.
Do you think that he's still dead, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Super dead. Deader than dead.
So kind of going back to this one thing you said when we were talking about Beyond 7 and using the legacy, and you said that like something to the effect of like you hope that Nev and Courtney remain involved. Parse that out a bit, because I think people will want to know about the idea of using the legacy actors. And I even hate that term legacy actors. They are the main characters. Like, what's your point of view about like in terms of them being involved? Do you want them to be, I assume you want them to be the lead, the main characters driving the story like we saw, in 2 and 3 and 4, as opposed to being used in like a limited way like we saw in 5 and 6?
I think that's pretty on the money. I want them in the movies in any capacity that Nev and Courtney want to come back. Having said that, if they're going to be leads, I think that's great. And also too, having them be leads or having them be co-leads or whatever terminology you want to use, not only does it make the mythology that much richer, it shows the respect to the final girls of this franchise that they deserve. There's too much speaking about like, they're old, how long can they survive in a movie for, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they're the fans who are only interested in the new and the, it's the TikTokification of movies. Like you're not interested in an ongoing story. You just want little chunks of entertainment that don't actually go anywhere.
Right.
So I would really love it if Sid and Gail keep being a part of the movies in whatever amount that they're in the movies.
I think like you said it well of like what Nev and Courtney want to do. I think this more so applies to Courtney than Nev. I think Nev is in it to win it. Like there's a part of me that really does. Like I would love to know what Nev was thinking during the time, like, when Jamie Lee Curtis was coming out with this new trilogy and this new Halloween movie that broke so many records, and thinking Nev probably thought to herself, well, maybe one day I could do that. Maybe one day, I could have that same type of moment for Scream in the way that Jamie Lee did for Halloween.
I sure hope so. And I hope she thought about that when they wouldn't pay her what she was worth. I hope that she was like, I'm worth more. I know my worth, and I'm not coming back until I get paid what I'm due.
And I think that this is the moment for that to finally materialize. And like, I think it's so cool. I think Nev Campbell taught everybody a very valuable lesson. Like, there's no way any one of us could have predicted the events and the twists and turns of how everything went down and how we ended up in this place. But I think Nev Campbell teaches us that, like, when you're professional And when you value yourself and you truly believe and you have a conviction about yourself, because it could have been easy for her, in an industry that always, is ready to dispose of older people, especially older women, for her to stand her ground and do this and stick to what she knew in her gut was the right thing to do, for it to come back around and reward her in a way. I think that's a lesson to us all.
It absolutely is. And when you consider like old in Hollywood for women is like 25 to 30,
Yeah.
which is absolutely friggin' ridiculous. So like the more I see Courtney, the more I see Nev, the more I see actresses over 30. What a concept. Getting those winning roles, and they keep having these vibrant, long-lasting careers in Hollywood. The more I'm like cheering for them, because we need to normalize that, folks. We need to make it just a normal thing, just the same way male actors can work well into 60s and 70s and 80s, if that's what they want to do.
Playing their roles, playing the parts that they originated in the franchises that they built and sustained over time.
I'm not saying that Nev and Courtney should still be playing Gail and Sid at 80.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. But if they choose to have longer careers, they should be allowed to have longer careers.
Right. And like but the point is, like, they aren't 80 right now. They're kind of at the perfect age to tell a 2.0 trilogy, in a way. Especially Nev, because like it makes so much sense for, if Sidney is so important to the franchise, and that for this dynamic about her family to be explored. Like that to me is like something that just is so living and breathing about Scream that needs to be told. Like there is urgency. Like this is a story that needs to happen in order for the franchise to be artistically fulfilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nuala, do you have anything else you want to share about your thoughts about the legacy here?
Yeah, I'm genuinely excited for Scream 7. I just really hope that this is the start of another really great OG trilogy.
Well, Nuala, thank you so much. Please tell everybody where they can follow you on Instagram.
You can find me over on Instagram at nuala.la or on Blue Sky at nualahhh.bsky.social.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!